Good morning, kids. This lesson is for my Math 2 first period class on Tuesday, 1-4. And we're going to be learning today about ratios. You should have out a piece of paper and you should be ready to take notes. Anything that I write down here on this dry erase board, you should write down on a piece of paper. That's how taking notes works. And if you don't pay attention to the video and you don't focus on the things that I'm saying, then you're not going to learn this lesson really well. So I need you to pretend like I'm standing right there in the room with you. You need to have out a piece of paper. You need to be looking at me. You need to be watching the things that I'm doing and writing down anything that I tell you to. Anything I write down, you should write down. So let's get started. Today's lesson is on ratios, and the first thing I need you to write down is this definition. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers by division. A ratio is a comparison. You guys know what it means to compare things to each other. You can compare two things by seeing what if one is bigger than the other. It's a comparison of two numbers by using division. And guess what? We've already learned a lot about ratios because we spent several weeks learning all about fractions. And fractions are a kind of ratio. So, your first example of a ratio is a fraction. A fraction is one way to write a ratio. If I say, for example, that for every one boy in our class, we have two girls. Let's write that down. For every one boy, we have two girls. Write that sentence down. For every one boy, we have two girls. We are going to write this situation as a ratio. There are three main ways that you can write a ratio. A fraction is one of those ways. So, let's draw a fraction bar. And in a ratio, the first number usually ends up going on top. So, for every one boy, we have two girls. This would be the ratio 1/2. The ratio 1/2. You're comparing the number 1 with the number 2 by division. So that's the fraction 1/2. This is one way to write this ratio. The other way to write this ratio is by using the word to. T-O. Not T-W-O, not T-O-O, just T-O. And to write a ratio using the word to, you put the first number, you write the word 2, and then you write the second number. For every one boy, we have two girls is the ratio 1:2. You're comparing the numbers 1 and 2. Another way to write a ratio is by using these two little dots. You've probably seen these before at some point. These two dots stand for the word 2. So to write the ratio, for every one boy, we have two girls, we write 1:2. So these are three different ways that you can write a ratio. In a little while, not right now, but a little bit later, we're going to be doing some workbook problems, and you're going to be asked to write ratios in three different ways. You can write the ratio as a fraction. You can write the ratio using the word 2. And you can write a ratio using two dots. And 99.9% of the time, you're going to end up putting the first number first, or on top, and the second number second, or on the bottom. Got it? So that is what a ratio is, and that's three different ways to write a ratio. Another kind of problem that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be writing equivalent ratios. Let's write those words down. equivalent ratios. Equivalent ratios are ratios that are equal. The root word of equivalent is equal. So we're really talking about equal ratios. Ratios that are equal to each other. So for example, if I give you the ratio 1 to 4, and I ask you to write an equivalent ratio to 1 to 4, it is a lot like when we wrote equivalent fractions. If you write 1 to 4 as a fraction, we might be able to see this a little better. To write an equivalent ratio to 1/4, you can just multiply the top and bottom of the fraction by a particular number, any number you want. So I could multiply the top and bottom of this fraction by 3 and get 3/12. So 1/4 and 3/12 are equivalent ratios or equivalent fractions. So when you have a ratio and your textbook asks you to write an equivalent ratio to that one, you take each number and just multiply it by something, any number you want. Let's do another one of these. Let's do the ratio 2/5. If I have the ratio 2:5, and the textbook tells me to write an equivalent ratio, I can multiply the first and second number by any number I want. I could multiply them both by 2. Let's do that. Times 2 times 2, that would give me 4/10. So 4/10 is an equivalent ratio to 2/5. You could choose a different number. If you didn't want to multiply by 2, let's say you wanted to multiply by 5. You could multiply the first and second number by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 5 is 25. So 2/5 and 10 to 25 are equivalent ratios. You multiply both numbers in the ratio by one number to get a ratio that looks new, but is really equal to the original. Let's do one last example. We did a fraction. We did one with dots. Let's do one with the word 2. Let's say we have the fraction, or the ratio 10 to 12. And somebody says, write an equivalent ratio to this. You can just pick any number you want to multiply the first and the second number by. You can multiply them both by 4 if you want to. 10 times 4 is 40. Write down the word 2. 12 times 4 is 48. So the ratio 10 to 12 is equivalent to 40 to 48. And again, you don't have to choose the number 4. You could choose any number you want. You could even divide by a number as well to get an equivalent ratio. If you started with 10 to 12, you could divide both numbers by something to get that ratio in simplest form. How about if we do that? Let's divide 10 and 12 by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So the ratio 10 to 12 is equivalent to the ratio 5 to 6. So once again, if you need to find an equivalent ratio, you either multiply both numbers by the same number, or you can divide both numbers by the same number, and that will give you an equivalent ratio. I think there's one more type of problem we need to learn today, and it's more about equivalent ratios. Your textbook will give you 2 ratios, and they will ask you if they are equivalent. or not. So let's see an example. 18 over 24 and the ratio 3/4. Your textbook will give you two ratios and they will ask you, are these equivalent? Remember, equivalent is just a fancy word for equals. So we need to figure out if these two fractions are equal to each other. There's a couple different ways you can do this. The easiest way that I know of to do a problem like this is to simplify the fractions. If they are equivalent, then both fractions, both ratios, will simplify to be the same thing. So let's simplify these. 18 over 24. To simplify this, we could divide the top and bottom by 6. And when we divide by 6, 18 divided by 6 is 3. 24 divided by 6 is 4. We get 3/4. That is the second fraction. So 18 24ths is really 3/4 in disguise. If you simplify 18 24ths, you get 3/4. So are these two equations, two ratios equivalent? Yes, they are, because they are both the fraction 3/4. And I figured that out by simplifying. Let's do another example. Let's do 6/7 and 30 to 36. If I give you these two fractions, 6/7 and 30/36, and I say to you, are these fractions equivalent? Simplify them. If they're equivalent, then they will simplify to be the same fraction. 6 over 7 is already simplified. So if this fraction can be simplified to be 6/7, then I'm going to be good. They're going to be equal. Let's see what happens. I think for this fraction, we can divide the top and bottom by 2. Let's try dividing the top and bottom by 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Is that all the way simplified? No. I can divide the top and bottom of this by 3. So let's do that. Divide the top and bottom by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So this fraction, 30 over 36, simplifies to be 5/6. Is 5/6 the same as 6/7? Nope. If they were the same, then when we simplified them, they would look the same. They're not. So these two fractions are not equivalent. Let's do just one more of this type of problem. If they give you ratios with dots instead of a fraction, I want to make sure you know what to do. So if they give you the problem 3 dot dot 10 and 7 dot dot 60, and they say, are these ratios equivalent? Let's find out. Just so that I wouldn't get confused, I would write these ratios as fractions. To write a ratio as a fraction, you just put the first number on top. So this is the fraction 3/10, and this is the fraction 7 over 60. Let's make sure these are simplified. 3/10, that is already simplified, right? Right. 7 over 60, the only thing you can divide 7 by is 7, and you can't divide 60 by 7. So this is already simplified too. Both of these fractions are already simplified. Do they look the same? Nope. That means they are not equivalent. So if you are given two ratios with the dots or the word 2, write those ratios as fractions and then simplify them. All right, kids, that is it for notes for today. Right now, I would like you to try some workbook problems. You are going to open up your workbook to page 291. Page 291. And you are going to try all the problems on this page. I think we've done problems like all of these in our notes today. So give these a try. Page 291 in your workbook, all of them. After you've completed them, then your substitute will read you the answers. The answer key should be on the white shelf right next to the teacher table in the front of the room. It's a skinny little green workbook booklet, and it should have the answers in there somewhere. Good luck. They are very tiny and hard to find, but they're in there. So after you all finish page 291, the teacher can read the answers, and then maybe you all can help each other go over any problems you need to. For example, if somebody missed number 10, maybe somebody in the class who got it right would volunteer to come to the board and do number 10 for the class. So you are going to have to help each other since I'm not there to help you. Take a few minutes and work on these problems by yourself, then listen to the answers, and then help each other figure out what you did wrong. If you all behave in class today and you're respectful to your substitute and you do what you're supposed to do, then you will not have homework tonight. If the substitute sends me a text and tells me that you were not respectful and that your class did not do what they were supposed to do today, then you will have homework tonight. And I will post that to Google Classroom when the substitute lets me know that you need to have homework. So, everybody in the room, listen to me. Be good. Do what you're supposed to do so that you can be rewarded with no homework. You don't want to have homework tonight. Get done what you need to get done. Go over the answers. Help each other figure them out. If you have some time at the end of class and you have all behaved, maybe the substitute will let you have some free time. You can play with Legos or whatever you need to do. But if you are not focused on your work, the substitute will have more work for you to do. So, be good, do your work, help each other go over the answers, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Love you guys. Bye-bye.